Hello everyone, my name is Mari and this is my channel. What you're about to hear is something I wrote back in 2022 that then I decided to record here for YouTube. Full disclaimer, I did not do any research of any kind for this. It's all based on my experiences, on what I have seen and what I have read. It's 100% subjective. I can and I will be wrong about a lot of things. Still, I hope you like it and thank you for listening. A writer of the 21st century. Many people who practice the craft of writing today repeat the same advice. Write a little every day. Write about anything, anywhere. A notebook, the computer, a blank sheet of paper. Because the important thing is to get the body used to the habit of writing, until it feels the need to do it for itself. I think it's quite right, although I'm the first one who doesn't follow it. After trial and error, I found that strict rules don't work for me, and that forcing myself to write like this to form habits is useless. That method will work for someone, and there are many who follow it to the letter. But because of the incessant repetition that that's the right way to practice writing, I've seen many, and I include myself here, who lose motivation when they can't write anything for 1, 2, 3 days in a row, while you read others who have managed to get almost 2,000 words out of their pen a day. The writer's work has changed, or at least the perception of it. It is quite common for people to have the notion that writers of the past exemplify the cliché idea of the creative soul in pain that turned its suffering into art. Today, there may be people who still maintain this image, but to it get added unique characteristics of our century, where the writer needs a presence on social networks, to advertise their book themselves and to know not only about writing, but also about editing, graphic design, layout, and even shipping logistics. On my good weeks, I open the computer and work on my writing about 5 days out of 7 on average. My personal rule is 500 words minimum. There are times when I don't succeed and others when I exceed them. I have adopted what I call the third month rule, where I spend 2 months trying to write daily as much as I can, and on the third I rest and write almost nothing. I understand that my way of working is rather slow, and that doesn't allow me to produce every day to evade the little voice of internal criticism that says that you are not a writer if you are not writing. It seems that writing is no longer an activity but a way of life, and being a writer is an identity and not just a job. On the internet, it's very easy to connect with other people who are on the same path, and I find in them many of the same concerns that come to me sometimes. Not writing for a day is fine, but if the day becomes a week and the week becomes a month, then the doubts born from the imposter syndrome that plants its roots in the heads of all of us begin. Added to this are the criticisms of those who don't have this problem, or rather, who have it and hide it, and sometimes they're also joined by the voices of those who don't practice writing of any kind, but who somehow seem to have a better knowledge than we do about our work. In my opinion, the market has not changed much in the essentials, as it continues to favor mass literature and economic profitability. This has caused two things: the image that writing is easy and anyone can do it, and, paradoxically, the idea that writing in this way is cheap and not what a real writer will do. I've always been in favor of pop literature in the sense that we don't need less of it but more quality from it, but I agree that we live in an age where we are inundated with it. There are more readers and writers in the world than ever before, and the saturation of material generates strange currents in a sea where niches of content and creators are generated daily. In the globalized world, interactions are essential to make way and differentiate oneself. At the beginning of this year, a writer I follow on social media asked anyone who was interested in receiving a copy of her most recent novel for help, reading it and leaving a review on one of the websites dedicated to this, so that the book would seem more legitimate on the day of the release. I jumped, determined not to miss the opportunity to read a novel for free before the publication date if all I had to do was leave a review at the end. Strategies like these are increasingly indispensable for modern writers, where the opinions of others are archived and define the scope that an error will have at first. I've read from other writers that there are times when publishers expect them to do some of the promotion and marketing, or how important the number of online followers becomes in deciding whether they will be chosen from hundreds of others or not. Thus, the writer ceases to be a reserved individual and gradually becomes a public personality like they never were before our century. However, There are some things that do not change, such as the fact that writing is an individual activity and a communion in equal parts. Writing can be lonely, but editing requires the text to pass through many hands, many times, so that other eyes can see what we cannot. The connectivity we have today has allowed this activity to be facilitated, as well as finding communities of people who are on the same path as us, sometimes at the same level as us, and in which we can help each other. 2 or 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to be a beta reader for another writer who, like the one I reviewed this year, I met through social media and who was looking for someone to help with this task. Again, I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to read for free. I've tried to do the same thing and find people like that online, but the language barrier is a problem. Both writers I met speak English, and if I wanted to ask them the same, I will have to translate my entire text first. At times, the reality that is presented to us makes us feel more alone than ever, and strangely closer to others. We create communities, and in these we find both sources of inspiration and insecurity. The successful writer slowly becomes a new kind of celebrity as the job is idealized by some and it's trivialized by others. We join the series of creative personalities whose talent is highly sought after and underpaid, such as animators, digital artists, or musicians. The only thing that does not change, even in the 21st century, is the need felt by the group of people called writers to create, to communicate with others, and to tell stories that are heard by someone else.